Welcome back to the Sounds of Stadia podcast for episode number 138 of your weekly gaming show where we round up all of the Stadia and video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games or up there in the digital cloud on your podcast preference of choice. This week, you join myself, Chris, your host for this today, alongside the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Richie, I've just demolished 2 burritos. You're slightly hungover.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I have that sort of hangover where you just you don't have a headache, you don't feel ill, you just feel incredibly lethargic. So I'm hoping the coffee kicks in at some point through this episode.
Oh, he's been out for a coffee, folks. Well, I'm glad you've got a coffee, Richie. I'm charged. I'm ready to go. We've got a great episode lined up for you lovely people out there, all you viewers and listeners who support us right here on the channel. We're going to be talking about EA's upcoming games. There's apparently 4 rumoured ones in the works. We've also got some updates and shake-ups from Ubisoft with new content dropping, new games coming to Stadia, confirmed, we suspect. Actually, it might be official. We'll get into all that as part of the news. We've got loads of updates and other content as well. But before we dive into all that, we've got some very exciting news for you lovely viewers and listeners out there regarding the channel itself. We've been saying for quite a while now we want to change things, keep updating, keep us fresh on our toes kind of thing. And this week, our members, our Helix heroes, will have already noticed at the time this episode goes live that we have actually made the decision to rebrand SideQuest, Richie. We've thought about it long and hard. We've thought about what the show is about, what the topics we discuss are, and SideQuest, as good as it is relating to video games, I don't know if you've looked, there's a lot of SideQuest shows out there.
That was kind of the biggest thing for me when we started talking about what we want to do with our shows, kind of have a bit of a refresh, because you have to keep refreshing things occasionally. With SideQuest, we like the show, we even like the name, but there's lots of shows called SideQuest. And sometimes that just means the show can get lost in the mix. If you search for SideQuest on a podcast service, there might be 8-9 shows. So we wanted something a bit more unique, something that is a bit more related to the cloud.
That's right. So we're going with, wait for it, drum roll,
CloudQuest.
CloudQuest. Yes. We're going to call the show CloudQuest. It allows us to branch out and talk about all cloud gaming topics. I know loads of our viewers and listeners have asked us to kind of delve into topics to do with other subjects, other platforms, and but we always want to keep it centric to cloud gaming because that's what the channel is kind of about at its core. And hopefully the rebrand, the reboot will allow us to do that as well. So don't panic, nothing's changing. We're going to keep the episodic numbers the same. We're not going back to episode 1. It's the same format.
We're not changing the format of the show. It's just a branding update.
It's just a reboot. And the good news is, on this week's episode of CloudQuest, the inaugural one, we will actually be talking about a Stadia reboot. It's been a while coming. We're talking 2.5 years down the pipeline now. And you know what? What could a reboot look like? Whether it's rebranding, remarketing, hardware, tech, games, relaunching, mixing up that pro games list. What could it look like? We'd love to hear your comments. And our Helix heroes, the members of our channel, up to 50 of you who support us that extra little bit more, you actually have that now. That episode, that first episode of CloudQuest is available right now at the time of this show going live. So go check that out. Anyone who's watching on free feeds, do not fear. That will be available on Friday. Just be patient and you'll get it eventually. So CloudQuest, what does a Stadia reboot look like? Relaunch, refresh, just like our channel. And thank you to all of said Helix heroes out there. I just wanted to give a special shout out to Thomas Collins, who's just joined us this week as well. Thank you to you, sir. We appreciate your extra support. You are indeed a Helix hero. So, Richie, now we've got that out the way.
Yeah.
We spoke about burritos and being hungover. Everyone out there is here for the video game news. But before we dive into that, we need to ask everybody to like the video, subscribe, and hit that jingly bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, because we don't just do a Stadia podcast. We do CloudQuest, our topical side gaming show. We do live streams every Thursday night, usually, with our lovely gaming community out there, from all the awesome people who join us to all the amazing people in our Discord server. We also do Fest Looks and sometimes little short reviews as well. So we do a lot of gaming content here on the channel, and you clicking like, you sharing, clicking that bell, it just helps us with the algorithm, and it helps other like-minded gamers like you find content to do with us, to do with Stadia, cloud gaming in general. So we appreciate it. So Richie, we didn't play anything this last Thursday. We had other commitments.
We didn't, yeah.
And we're both suffering for it from different ways still to this day. But our listeners and viewers out there are here for all of the news. So without further delay, for episode 138, Richie, will you introduce us to the
super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
That's right, folks. I said at the top, it's a busy week for news. Lots of kind of, it's big company news, but not that big in terms of, it's all kind of, I feel like it's filling up the pipe, ready to hit off in the Summer Games Fest, like next month. I think as soon as one of those companies goes with a showcase, then we're going to see just like the dam break, and we're going to get news all through June to the end, probably into July somewhat.
Yeah.
First story.
It just seems like, things are just about to start stacking up as we get towards Summer Games Fest.
Well, the actual game releases have dipped off a little bit now. I don't know about you, but I kind of find myself in this place where I'm thinking, don't really know what to play at the moment. Like I'm dabbling in things, but I'm not fully invested in any big games at all, which I kind of like it. Nice little break.
I'm ready for my next big game now. I don't know what I'm going to play next, but I'm ready for it. Yeah,
well, I'm kind of intrigued by The Quarry, just because it would have been a Stadia exclusive initially, and I do like Supermassive, and I did really enjoy Until Dawn. But I don't know, I think it's full price at like 70 quid, so it's like, is it? Well, yeah, no.
It feels a bit steep.
Exactly. But that's not what we're talking about here. First story of the week is EA Projects, EA Games, Electronic Arts offered investors this week a sneak peek at what's cooking for 2023. And during the earnings report, which we tend to find this time of year, we get trickles of shareholders, stockholders. There was a slide on EA's Q4 2020 earnings presentation that gave a look at the next 4 months worth of releases. Of course, one of them was Formula 1 2022 in Q1. We know that. They put out a trailer for that not too long ago. It actually comes out on July 1st, so any Formula 1 fans won't have to wait long to play that. Not on Stadia, we should point out as well. It's one of those titles that we've got previous entries and we're still waiting. So this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to EA's next title. Of course, Codemasters. This is the Codemaster relationship starting to come to fruition on a few fronts. We know FIFA inevitably will be coming. We've actually got a big story about FIFA lined up next. And Madden eventually will, of course, again, fingers crossed, hopefully come. We know there is a Need for Speed game in the works. We've covered it a few weeks back around the teams working on that. But moving on, Q4, which covers January through March of 2023. So quite a while off as of now, but in the gaming world, and as we know the way time is at the moment, you'll blink and it'll be Christmas and game and gone.
Can I just be a bit nitpicky with EA? Like, Q4 2022 starts in January 2023. Seriously, guys?
Financial years, right?
Yeah, but like...
It's business. And we get one named franchise amongst others, but on the slide, there was 4 bullet points that are kind of enticing to anyone out there who just wants to know what the future holds. The 4 bullet points were a major IP, number 1, a partnership title, a remake, and the 4th one was a sports title.
Yeah.
So now, we wouldn't be a very good gaming podcast host, Richie, if we didn't break down those 4 bullet points and speculate on what exactly we think those EA titles might be.
Well, the first thing to bring up is that these are not already announced games.
Mm-hmm.
So there's things like, there's question mark of something like Dragon Age. Does that count as announced? Because we know there is one coming, but did we ever get the actual full reveal, like title and stuff?
Well,
or is it just they said there's one in the works?
I think they're all going. They have to be new. Obviously, there's remake in there, but Dead Space has been announced. Dead Space has a trailer. It's actually got a date now. It's one of the next stories. Sports titles. We know the cadence of release for all of the sports titles, so it must be something new or different. We know EA trying to take over all that.
The rumor is like a college football
But that's
game.
been announced, right? So it's like it's this.
I mean, it's been announced that they're working on something. They haven't actually announced the game though.
Well, the same could be said for Mass Effect as well, because they've put out the teaser poster where it's the Geth silhouette with the ship in the middle. But
a Mass Effect sports title could be interesting.
Mass Effect sports title, yeah. Come on, Shepard, go long. But yeah, I guess it's got me intrigued because I do appreciate a lot of EA's games. I'm very excited for the next Jedi Fallen Order sequel, and you and me both enjoy FIFA. I know a lot of our audience out there enjoy Madden and such, and Need for Speed especially. It's been a while since I've played a Need for Speed game. But yeah, I'm trying to think of their catalogue of things that they own. Remake, I'd take a couple of Star Wars remakes if I'm honest.
Should we do it this way? There's 4 titles we need to pick each: a major IP, partner title, remake, and sports title, and we both name what we think they are individually.
I don't know if I have my brain screwed on for what exactly I would say. For a partnership title,
I'm leaning Star Wars for partnership for the Fallen Order remake, the Fallen Order sequel.
But again, that's been announced. We know that's coming, so it wouldn't be.
We know it's coming, but again, this comes down to the game itself hasn't had that big announcement trailer. So is it in that? They've said that they're working on it, but they haven't announced the game. This is where it gets a bit tenuous.
Yeah, major IP. I think we're going to see a Titanfall 3. I think Battlefield 2042 failed that much. That brand has took such a hit, and everyone knows how beloved Titanfall 2 is, and now Respawn is kind of expanding year on year. I do feel like this is the time to say, you know what, let's just bring Titanfall back. It's probably going to be bigger than Battlefield.
I'm going to build on that, but it's not going to be called Titanfall. It's going to be, they're going to lean into the Apex Legends branding rather than the Titanfall one, because I think it's just, that's an easier sell.
Okay. Yeah,
but it's basically just going to be a Titanfall game, which is branded as an Apex Legends game.
Like a hybrid. So Apex Fall, Titan Legends.
Yeah, where Apex is effectively a spin-off of Titanfall. They're going to spin off Apex back into Titanfall.
It all goes full circle.
Yeah.
Partner title could literally be anything, couldn't it? It could be something with Disney. It could be another Star Wars thing, which I feel like we've got a lot of Star Wars things in the works, unless it's a smaller project. We know Star Wars Squadrons was well received. It was a much smaller game, but it was well received. I'd be very intrigued to see them have a crack at a Rogue Squadron type game. Like the Squadrons team actually have a full-on campaign Rogue Squadrons title. If we are getting a Star Wars. Yeah. Yeah, my only downfall to Squadrons, why I really didn't enjoy that much, is it was all in first person. And I'm a big believer, if I'm flying or driving vehicles, I would like to see the vehicle I'm in, not just a cockpit.
I think they did that because it was initially a VR only game.
It played great in VR. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so in first person, being sat in the cockpit in VR was probably the way to play that game, because that's how it was intended. But I think they moved away from VR only to make it a bit more mass market.
Yeah, but third person. If I'm flying an X-wing, I want to see the X-wing.
Yeah, when they made that decision to not just make it VR only, they should have added the third person view in.
Yeah, it's surprising it didn't get patched in actually, but we digress. Remake. What have EA got in their library that is really meriting a remake?
Well, the one I want is a Dragon Age Origins remake.
Oh, so you think they'll go back to that well?
Yeah, well, Dragon Age Origins, really great game. It's ugly nowadays. It hasn't aged. It hasn't aged well. It plays fine, but it's a really revered title. Dragon Age has been on a bit of a hiatus because it's been ages since Dragon Age Inquisition. Maybe dropping a remake in if they need a bit more time for Dragon Age 4, or drop 4 soon. Well, this is going to be cute early next year, so I'm less optimistic, but it's what I'd like them to see, a drop of an Origins remake leading into Dragon Age 4 probably later in the year. Okay.
I could see that. I could see them going back to that well and digging deeper a little bit. What are the chances when it comes to a major IP? We keep joking about it on the show quite often actually, but what about The Sims? Are we due a Sims 5? We must be talking coming up 10 years since the last iteration, and I know they've milked it a lot, but are we overdue a new Sims game?
It wouldn't surprise me if they just keep going with Sims 4 and just keep adding more and more DLC as long as they're making money. But they're again, if they turn around and going, well, we're going to Sims 5 is coming.
Yeah,
It wouldn't surprise me either.
Are we at that point where it should just be The Sims? Like, drop the number?
I was going to bring
and
up
just...
that exact same point. It's like, I think they should. Like, because, I mean, Sims is like the ultimate DLC game. It's like...
Yeah, it is.
Like...
Which EA love. EA loves getting that DLC out there and making that extra bit of coin.
I'm just looking at the expansion packs now, trying to see when the last one came out. And I think it might have been 2021.
Right.
So...
Yeah, so...
It's so that and the last one I can find, and Cottage Living July 2021. Oh, My Wedding Stories is February 2022.
I know they've had DLC out recently, but in terms of like the core product, that is definitely probably.
Oh, Sims 4 is a 2014 game. Like
yeah, that's definitely due something.
Yeah, I would just drop the title, drop the number, just call it The Sims.
Mm-hmm.
I'd even consider making it going a completely different route and make the initial game free to play, but then you can buy DLC packs and stuff because they've already got an integrated like store in all the Sims.
Yeah.
Since, like,
that's very 2022 as well.
Yeah, so you could get with Sims being such a mass market thing, you could literally just have like base game is free, so people drop in, but a bit more cut back than what you'd expect a normal Sims launch in terms of content, but then you just have constantly bring out patches and DLC and stuff like season pack. Give Sims a season pack or something.
Like, yeah, I could definitely see something like that.
It'd be a bit of a controversial move, but I think Sims can handle it.
Yeah, I think it could as well, and I think a free play model would work really well for just bringing. Again, Sims is a very casual game. I would have thought. Like, I've only ever played it when I've not got anything else on. I think we all do the usual routine with The Sims, but I know like my sister plays it, my wife plays it, and they are not gamers by any stretch of the imagination, but they get that itch every now and again to just go build a house, make some characters, kit it all out, decorate it, and then just leave it and never play it again for another 2 years. But that's the allure The Sims has. So yeah. Finally wrapping up then on this one, Richie, sports titles. Do we think? I mean, EA have pretty much their hands in every pie when it comes to sports titles. Do you think this is like genuine real world sports, or do you think they'll lean more into maybe like the Rocket League world and try and get more in the crazy element of like virtual sports rather than real world?
I think it's going to be real world sports, because otherwise I think they would have went with esports title.
Okay.
And if you think if this is part of an investor call, if you're an investor sat there listening into this and it's a sports title, are you thinking Rocket League or are you thinking football?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Would you class pod racing as a real sport?
I'd class it as an esport.
Oh, there we go then. Could be something along them lines.
Unless someone can actually build a functional pod racer, then it can become an actual sport.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of news. Obviously, we don't know any specifics about it, but it's exciting to think that all of this is in the pipeline for the start of next year, which in turn means we'll probably start to hear about it this summer as we head into autumn, fall. Not too long.
We're probably going to have an EA Play event in the summer.
I remember they said EA Play isn't here this summer. Remember, we report on that. They're going to do individual showcases for particular games. So we thought they didn't have anything collectively to pull together. And I do agree that sometimes they're kind of having FIFA for 20-odd minutes and then jumping away to Mass Effect and then jumping to The Sims. It's such a broad array of genres. I feel like you lose a bit of your hype.
Rather than have one this big on stage, he's a massive press conference going, you know what? He's your FIFA stream, he's your Madden stream, he's your Sims one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, you could do an event of just these 4 potential titles alone, to be honest.
Certainly. It will certainly.
Add in the sports titles, and there you go. There's your hour filled.
You're done. But we'll have to wait a little bit longer until we find out about that. Keeping with EA in the EA block, we've kind of got 2 big blocks of the news. We've got an EA block, a Ubisoft block, and then any other business. There's always a Ubisoft block. Keeping with EA though, we've been thinking about it for quite some time. Star Wars Day, May the 4th, has been and gone. Revenge of the 5th has been and gone. Star Wars Celebration is imminently upon us, as is the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And Jeff Grubb journalist over at VentureBeat, has a podcast which seems to be leaking more stuff at this moment in time. I feel like every other week I hear a story about Jeff Grubb has quoted this, said this, dropped this, and he's again quite an industry veteran when it comes to it. Apparently, Jedi Fallen Order, or the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, has its name, Richie. It's going to be titled Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And that's what he's said. And obviously, he initially said it was going to come out possibly the back end of this year, but now it seems like as time's going on, it's going to get pushed somewhere between January and April 2023, which, Richie, if we go back to the story we just covered, could be factored into that major IP. It's
almost as I read this story and that coloured my opinion for the first story.
Almost. I, of course, for one, am really excited about the sequel to this. I think we were maybe keeping our fingers too crossed if we thought it was going to come this year. Since 2019, It was almost like it could happen. But the way COVID's impacted everyone in the studios, like, there's no surprise. We obviously learned this week that Xbox have just delayed Starfield and Redfall back to next year as well. So, no surprise.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was EA's intention to be for Star Wars Jedi Survivor to be like a Christmas blockbuster game.
Yeah,
get it out early mid-November in time for Christmas.
Exactly, and in a way it's weird because, as I said with the Xbox news, is the back end of this year could actually be very quiet. Like if God of War gets pushed for PlayStation, which it still very much might, I don't think there's anything really major out the back end of this year at all.
I mean, at the moment you're right, but there again we are before Summer Games Fest.
That is true. That's true.
In like a month's time, 2 months' time, it might be a very different landscape.
That is very true. And hopefully a very different landscape for Google Stadia as well. Because as we keep reporting on all these stories, I have this like innate fear inside me where we won't get Jedi Fallen Order 2. Until it's official, I'm just going to call it Jedi Fallen Order 2.
Yeah.
We won't be getting Formula 1. We don't get FIFA. And then just kind of what is left to actually play and talk about this in this whole year of 2022. Where are we at with anything? So, but we won't delve into that here because we've got much more topics to talk about in the EA block. The next one, it's been rumoured for some time, but it's now finally official as the football season here in the UK comes to a close. FIFA is officially ditching the FIFA name, starting with next year's iteration. So you will see FIFA 23 this autumn, this fall. But next year, it will be now formerly known as EA Sports FC. EA Sports Football Club, I guess.
Yeah.
Richie, they're officially dropping the name. We knew it for some time. This is all down to FIFA because they are greedy and corrupt and every other thing you want to call them under the sun.
Well, the thing is, it's one of these moments where we know FIFA are greedy, we know they're corrupt, and there's way too much money in the sport as it is anyway. But from it's been reported something like, I think I've heard things like over $1 billion that they want for like I think almost a year for 4 letters on the front of a box. So I totally understand why EA are going, it's just not worth that much money. Like, guys,
it's really not. Like, it might take some brand damage, but I think the game speaks for itself.
Will. Like, I don't like the title EA Sports FC. I don't think it has that kind of punchiness that FIFA does.
Yeah, you come around and play FIFA.
If you're talking with friends, do you fancy coming around and play FIFA? Do you fancy coming around playing EA Sports FC? Yeah. It doesn't have that nice short thing like, you fancy coming around Sports FC? I suppose you could call it EA FC would be the shorthand. But it's not as punchy, but
it's not.
I don't think it's going to harm it.
Yeah, if anything, Konami's Pro Evolution Soccer rebrand to eFootball is probably a little bit better. Do you want to come play around some eFooty?
Yeah, eFootball. I mean, it's a terrible game, but good branding.
Yeah, but again, because it's free to play, it has the chance to get better because it's just a platform now. It's not an annualized thing. So aside from that, though, to go back to it, EA put out statements saying, everything you love about the games will be a part of EA Sports FC. The same great experiences, modes, leagues, tournaments, clubs, and athletes will be there. EA's it was their it's like one of the spokesman people said, Ultimate Team, Career Mode, Pro Clubs, Volta Football will all be there. Our unique licensing portfolio of more than 19,000 players, 700 teams and 100 stadiums across 30 leagues will continue to be there, and will invest in the decades to come and make EA Sports FC unique. This includes extensive partnerships beyond Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, and the MLS, and more to come. So I kind of guess now they're free of FIFA, they're going to be going to the clubs individually, maybe, or is it FIFA Pro? It's weird and convoluted because there's different companies who kind of run. From what I
understand, like they do negotiate with the clubs and stuff separately, and the league separately separate to FIFA anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's why I think Juventus haven't been in the game for like 2 years or something.
Yeah, because they were with.
It's Bergamo FC or something at the moment.
Yeah. I hate when that happens.
Yeah, like
you want your brand out there, but yeah, this kind of follows on the back of EA coming out with EA Sports PGA Tour next year. We know they rebranded the Dirt Rally Twitter account to EA Sports Rally. So I think EA just gone through this massive shift to not control, but have stakes in almost
consolidate
every
the branding,
yeah. And it's an interesting one. I, for one, again, if it improves the game, it allows them to have millions more dollars to invest into the actual gameplay and the visuals of the title, then yeah, more power to you. And FIFA still corrupt, so it is what it is, Richie. I, for one, will be very intrigued just to see if the title will actually come to Stadia, of course. That's the biggest thing that I want to know, because I've played the most of the last iteration on my phone using a Razer Kishi.
It's kind of similar to what we're doing. It's like it's with SideQuest. Like it's the same show. We're just giving it a new lick of paint. They're going, this is the same game. We're just giving it a rebrand.
Very true.
The only difference is FIFA aren't charging us $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean,
they could pay us $1 billion if they want. I'd say yes.
They certainly could. But then, as an ironic twist, I guess, or expected twist, since the announcement from EA, FIFA themselves, who, just bear in mind, do not make video games, have announced plans to release an EA Sports FC rival and more. And FIFA's president has actually actively came out and claimed that we are going to be engaging with leading games publishers, media companies and investors regarding development of a major new FIFA simulation football game title for 2024. Now, this is interesting because in one way I'm thrilled because it creates competition, which means we're going to get another football soccer game that isn't eFootball, that isn't previously known as FIFA EA Sports. I think it's a bit brave of them to say for 2024, considering they haven't currently got a publisher, or I mean they might behind the scenes, but to get something off the ground that has such dynamics as a sports simulation game, like as much as FIFA is the same game year on year, there is a lot of algorithms that go on behind the scenes to simulate.
There's a lot of things though with FIFA being the same game like year on years. They've already got scans of all the players, and it's more of like we're updating things.
Yeah.
To build that from the ground up in 2 years.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys. Like seriously, I hope this comes out. I hope it smashes it because FIFA does need a bit of a kicking, to be honest, at times.
Yeah.
Not FIFA, EA Sports Football, EA Sports FC needs a bit of a kicking sometimes. Like, especially as someone who's big into career mode, it always feels like an afterthought as they're trying to constantly try to push stupid online things like Ultimate Team and what seasons, and you can't just jump in and have a basic game online with like a lobby and stuff. So there's a lot of things that actually FIFA, if they do well, could be really good. I just don't have any expectation for it though. In 2 years seems ambitious. It also comes across as a bit petty because they didn't get the $1 billion. It's like, oh, you're not going to pay us, we'll do it ourselves. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. If I was to throw it over to you and say, who do you think the best partner would be? Because, like, surely if you're a publisher or developer out there, this is big money. Like, if you hit this right, if you get the FIFA brand, if you give this to a credible studio, is there a reality where someone shops for exclusive? Like, imagine if PlayStation went to these and said, oh, we've got our MLB The Show studio. They made MLB The Show exclusive for PlayStation for years. We'll put them on a FIFA title. Yeah, I guess PlayStation probably wouldn't want to ruin their relationship with EA football, because FIFA and PlayStation do a lot of marketing synergy as well. But you know what I mean? There's got to be a studio out there would jump at the chance to take a FIFA brand and make this. But who would it be?
Like, who's involved in sports games? I'm thinking 2K.
Yeah, that's
one of their studios, maybe. Tencent, maybe. So, I mean, Tencent involved in everyone's hard to say. Like, the Embracer Group, potentially. They're looking to expand and stuff.
Which studio, though? You need a...
I haven't got a clue. Crystal Dynamics.
You're either going to give it to someone unknown who's probably going to have a crack at it and not do that well, or you're going to give it to a famed veteran in the industry who will grab this and be able to make it the big thing they're probably hoping it will be.
I think 2K is where I would lean towards, because they at least have experience in sports games. And I can't, outside of Konami, who, let's be fair, Konami about things, I can't think of another really industry leader in sports games other than EA.
Ubisoft
EA do
not
have
want
a
to
bit
crack
of
at it, do you think? Could you imagine that?
Potentially.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's a good proposition, but it could be a cursed chalice at the same time.
This is the thing. I think you'd have to. It's a big mountain to climb, because if someone like Ubisoft is going to do this, you are looking at EA Sports FC and going, this is the baseline we have to hit. In fact, we have to go beyond. We have to be better than that.
Yeah.
It would be like EA Sports FC 2025 when it comes out. We have to be better than that, in my opinion, for this to work. Because if you're just as good, then why?
Indeed. It'll be an interesting one. I'm with you. I think 2K is a big fit, and they've got a lot to prove, because if we remember, they wanted initially to buy Codemasters, and EA pipped them by throwing an extra couple $1 million in the ring. If they've got something to prove, coming back at EA with a FIFA title that's going to combat the EA Sports FC game would be, I think, a big push into the sports world. Because again, like we only love FIFA as much because they have the brand and the names and the licenses. That's why I was more drawn to it originally.
I think that was ultimately the death of PES, to be honest, that they didn't have them licenses.
Yeah, it was.
There's arguments over the years that actually PES actually played better than FIFA.
Yeah, certainly did. But again, I'm such a brand loyal person. I don't want to look at a club and it not have the official crest, the official kit, the wrong names for the players. There's only so much I can suspend my disbelief when I'm playing as David Beckham at Manchester Red or something. It's like, come on, guys. But we move on from that one. We'll have to wait a good while. I'm sure there's a FIFA World Cup Qatar game due out, no doubt, at the back end of the year, just to showcase how corruption works in the sporting world. Sticking with EA, part of the EA block, some quick fire stories. Speaking of the previous games, Richie, EA are actually merging two studios. We've got Criterion, who are known for the Need for Speed games. They helped out a little bit with Battlefront 2. And Codemasters Cheshire, who've worked on previous entries for Codemasters in the past. They are now merging the two of those teams. So nothing really to be said. They're going to keep their individual locations.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting now to see the wheels moving behind the scenes at EA. So one of them's based in Cheshire, one of them's based in Guildford. So you're talking about a 4-hour drive, maybe, distance-wise in the UK.
Instantaneous Skype call.
Or a Skype call, yeah. But it's interesting that they're moving them all under the Criterion Games banner. I guess they share common values, similar cultures is what the statement said, and we strongly believe that unifying the wealth of expertise across both teams will help us deliver the best racing experience for all of our future players. They said in a tweet that went out. So
we don't know what they're actually going to brand this new merger, whether it's going to be Criterion or is it going to be Codemasters or Codemaster Criterion or something like that.
I'd imagine it's Criterion, just judging by the tweet saying we can confirm Criterion Games and the development team at Codemasters are officially coming together, forming one Criterion studio with two hubs.
Fair enough.
Says it all.
Yeah.
Because yes, of course, they bought them for 1.2 billion, as I mentioned previously, pipping 2K. So a lot to be said. We are, of course, supposedly getting a Need for Speed title by the end of the year. So it was delayed from last year because they were put on battlefield duty, if you remember. We all know that panned out, so I'm hoping for a good Need for Speed title, and more importantly, I'm hoping that it drops on Stadia. Along with the final EA story of the week, just to include it in it. Dead Space, Richie, we theorised a little bit in the first EA story of the week. It's been given a date. EA have confirmed that Dead Space will in fact launch, oddly enough, January 27th. The developer motive announced. Now, the only reason that it has pause for thought is I know January is a great month to get big titles out. I don't know if I'm in the mood to play a sci-fi survival horror game in January. I feel like I'm coming on the down after a Christmas buzz.
The 27th is a weird date as well, because January, I don't know about for you. For me, it's like one of the longest months in the year for your bank balance.
You got no money, yeah.
It almost feels like pushing it to February the 3rd, which is just a week later, is a smarter move because everyone's just been paid. Where on the 27th, everyone's like, "Oh, I got no money in the bank." Waiting for like to stretch out the last few pennies for the month.
Yeah, it's a curious one.
I don't know how much it will actually affect it, but
no. This is one title though. We should surely hear something more about it this summer. We've got to.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's coming out in January this summer, I think they're going to go big. I think my predictions this summer games first, somewhere. You'll see some more stuff, and I reckon they'll go hard at the Game Awards.
Yeah, give it like that final push before launch.
One last big push before January.
Yeah. I am really intrigued by Dead Space. I think playing Resident Evil and Resident Evil Village, 7 and Village on Stadia actually has given me that intrigue, that bug for horror games. I'm much more open to play them, especially if it's you and me doing it on a stream or something. I think I'm a lot more open to jumping into that jump scary world. You get more fun out of it. And you're not alone. No one likes to go through scary places on their own.
Some people do.
I mean, yeah, some people are just sycophants who love that kind of thing. But we'll hear more about Dead Space. And again, we keep saying it, but please give us some dates for releases on the cloud gaming platform known as Google Stadia. Come on, EA. We just need that one game, Richie. We just need that one game to drop, and we can go. That 5-game deal was just a flash in the pan.
That's going to
be content.
Until we get an announcement from EA for a game coming to Stadia, that 5-game deal looks like is this 5 and done?
It just lingers, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it just lingers, and I think we've said it, and I think our audience knows it as well. But yeah, if we round out this year and we don't get the Need for Speed game, we don't have a confirmation for the Jedi Fallen Order sequel. If Dead Space isn't coming in January, if we haven't got Formula 1, if FIFA doesn't drop, then I think EA are done, which is worrying.
Yeah.
So whatever needs to be done.
EA are done with Stadia. EA will be absolutely fine.
Yeah, but that would be really concerning for me. I think Ubisoft are great, but you need some diversity. And
you can't only have one big studio publisher putting things in your platform.
Right. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And that brings us to an end of our EA block. We've got a little bit of a segment in between this before we move into our Ubisoft column of the week. We have a game confirmed coming to Stadia, Talking Dogs. The developers tweeted out this week, Carson Kelly Games, saying, "Hey Stadia community, Talking Dogs is coming to Google Stadia and is on track for a targeted launch date
July
17th. They used the emoji rather than the actual date, which is why it took me a second. But more information will be shared in a few weeks. And I went to check out a teaser trailer for this game, Richie. It's described as a single-player, story-driven, third-person title where you play as Phil the Husky, who's on a journey to find his best friend who's gone missing from their hometown. The game is developed by Carson Kelly Games, and that's all we know. And what I did my usual research, where I go away and I try and get the trailer for the show to put up. And the trailer, obviously, of course, a trailer, Richie, as we all know, is designed to give you a bit of an insight into what this game is about. This has to be the worst trailer for a video game I've ever seen. It does definitely nothing. It's for those watching on YouTube. It spends the first 30 seconds of the trailer doing a slow pan up to a sun. That's it. So it's just showcasing a slow pan, I guess. It's a bit cinematography there. And then the next bit shows you a world that looks similar to something from Human Fall Flat, with like some nice bright green, some woods, not too much texture. That zooms in on, I guess, Phil the Husky dog, who looks like he's floating an inch off the ground. And that's it. Nothing happens. This is a trailer to promote a game, and I feel like I'm none the wiser other than I've looked at a bit of a tech demo for
since we're breaking breaking down the trailer absolutely tells you nothing about the game straight away. It just fails in one of the most fundamental things. The grass textures underneath the dog. It looks like someone's just used fill on paint. I mean, there's a bit of a gradient, there's shadows and stuff, but there is absolutely no texture of that grass in the slightest. And from as far as I can tell, the selling point in this game at the moment is that it uses Unreal 5.
Mm.
And
Actually, speaking of Unreal 5, though, did you see that video that went out this week at the train station?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you've got to check that out. I'm sure lots of our viewers have. There's an Unreal tech demo that's gone out, and it's basically, it pans around like a worn down, it looks like a British train station, to be fair. Pans around, looks up the stairs, like there's a bit of water on the floor, you can see the weeds and everything, and then it cuts to a nighttime scene. And it, honestly, trying to figure out if it's real life or it is an Unreal 5, it's getting harder and harder. And yeah, definitely go check that video out if you've not seen it. It's quite
we're talking
intriguing.
dogs, you can tell it's definitely not real life. I mean, it's not graphically terrible, to be honest. It's just, I'm always worried about a game when the initial marketing beat is always just pushing what engine it's on rather than telling us about the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it that I'm intrigued by. I appreciate a single player driven story. I appreciate a third person title. Although is it person if it's a dog? Is it third dog title?
Yeah, it's still third person, like.
Yeah, where you play as Phil. I like the name Phil. I like huskies. My neighbour has one. It's very loud. But
the game could be great, but we just don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's hard for me. It's hard. I'm caught in this place where it's hard for me to get excited about this because one, they've not shown me anything to get excited about. Two, I'm not here talking about like big AAA games. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like if it's between talking dogs and I don't want to go down the route of what I don't want to go down the route of what I can. But yeah, like Jedi Fallen Order or whatever. But again, not that I'm comparing them, but this is what we've got to report on at this moment in time, and yeah. We'll leave it at that one. But new game potentially coming July 17th. I hope we see a lot more from it by July 17th. They've got a few more weeks, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I wish
good luck to them. Moving on then to our Ubisoft block, Richie. We've got some news out of China, of all places. Ubisoft China, and their title that did actually launch on Nintendo Switch in China on August 5th, 2021. It actually appears that Rabbids Party of Legend, a Ubisoft original, will be arriving on June 30th to PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and Stadia. So this is one of those interesting ones where it's a game that's already been out, but for some reason it's region locked. We see it sometimes with a lot of Japanese games where they don't get ported across to the West until many years sometimes after the fact. And
I mean, that typically happens with smaller Japanese studios that like the focus on releasing like something like a JRPG in Japan, and then once it's out, start working release out the porting or something to another company. Mm-hmm. It's weird for Ubisoft to do it.
Yeah, it must be some kind of just deal like internally with the studio.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Chinese government money into this to bring this game to China, that sort of thing.
So that's a stay exclusive almost. A little bit about the game though. When the Rabbids, if you're not familiar with other Rabbids, are the little wacky, zany rabbit characters that Ubisoft created about a decade or so ago. I think it was Rayman, right? They were just like a side creature in Rayman, and then they were that popular they kind of have spin-offs that cover all sorts of genres now. But the crux of this is when the Rabbids take a ride in their washing machine, they are mysteriously transported to a mythological world of mayhem inspired by the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West. In this multiplayer party game, the Rabbids must play their way through the chaos and find their way home. Rabbids Party of Legends has 50 mini-games that challenge players to strike silly poses, topple opponents, scarf chili peppers, show off their dance moves, and much more, which up to 4 players can join locally, or 2 versus 2, or a free-for-all. They can also create custom playlists for their favourite mini-games, and the AI's difficulty levels are customisable, making the game approachable for any age and fun for the whole family. So this, Richie, is essentially, it's like Mario Party / Crash Bash with Rabbids. With Rabbids, yeah. And interesting. Like, again, I'm really happy to see it coming over to the West. Bit more. I can't say
I'm a fan of the Rabbids, but this sort of party game is always welcome.
Indeed, it is. No doubt. it will go as part of Ubisoft Plus as well. So if you've got that subscription, you know I've got it. I will point out a comment that did make me laugh on the initial kind of like article for it. Top comment: Rayman died for this. Which I was like, yeah, we've actually not had another Rayman game in a long, long time, and yet we keep getting Rabbids games. There's the Rabbids one on Nintendo Switch with Mario, Battle Kingdom, and there's a sequel due out soon. For anyone thinking this means that we'll get the Rabbids and Mario game on Stadia, I really wouldn't hold your breath. Yeah, it's Mario is 100% Nintendo exclusive, and they will fight you to the death to retain that.
Nintendo have leased out Mario and Zelda in the past to Philips with the CDI, and I think it's traumatized them to such a level that you'll never see a Nintendo title anywhere else other than a Nintendo platform.
And they don't need to, because the Switch is sold like it's like at 120 million or something at this point.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if in the future you got some Mario DLC for the Rabbids Party of Legends on Switch.
Yeah, like specific to that platform.
Yeah.
So one new game lined up. Thankfully, we also had a investor call from Ubisoft. We actually get a lot of Ubisoft news from investor calls, and Party of Legends was one of them that was covered. Is also part of a reporting from Gamatsu. We've also got For Honor, Richie. Now, For Honor is an interesting one because it was actually rated, or it was actually part, of an investor call, I want to say 2 years ago now. Really early on, and we covered it. We actually anticipated it would come to Stadia.
It was one of them. I think it was in the initial press briefing, but then they backtracked after the event or something, after the call or something, saying like, actually, no, that shouldn't have been in there, full stop.
Yeah, they apologised and said it was an error. Of course, For Honor keeps ticking away, just like a lot of Ubisoft titles, such as Rainbow Six Siege and The Division and such. And this investors report for the first quarter, which is April to June 2022, which doesn't have long left in it at the time of recording. Once again, For Honor showing up. Year 6, Season 2, so that's the most current one. Amazon Luna, PC, PlayStation 4, Stadia, and Xbox One. Now, fool me once, Richie. Fool me twice. They're not going to come out later this week and apologise again and say Stadia wasn't supposed to be here? Or do we think this is probably a definite lock-on now?
I think this is a definite lock this time. And does For Honor have crossplay now? Because I'm wondering if before it didn't, and it since like it was initially announced, like accidentally announced for Stadia, if they brought crossplay to it, I'm wondering if that is kind of the decision. Maybe it was. I think we've probably speculated at the time. Is this a case of that? What was it 2 years ago? It was actually accidentally announced. And if it didn't, the game didn't have crossplay at that time. When it's not going to well consider it, pull that back last minute. We'll get crossplay, then we'll go for a Stadia launch.
That's a very good point. Reading from Ubisoft's website, March 10th, 2022, we are excited to announce that crossplay is coming to For Honor on PC, PlayStation, Xbox. It'll be implemented in 2 phases. Phase 1 being March 17th. So Phase 1 is already rolled out. Crossplay has been an ambition on our team for a very long time. There have been many technical challenges to bring crossplay to For Honor because of the core technical game components were not originally designed to support it. Thanks to the hard work at the team, we're now proud to bring crossplay to our warriors. We believe crossplay will benefit For Honor and its long-term vision. We'll answer some questions. So 2 phases. So phase 2 is group and play with cross-platform friends. So it doesn't mention anything specifically about Stadia, but I think that's a great point you've mentioned. I think reading between the lines, once crossplay is implemented, that means then they can roll it out to every other platform because crossplay is up and running.
Yeah, we actually talked about this on episode 129. So I thought, have we talked about this before? I was like, yeah, we have. But this time we've got the confirmation that is coming to Stadia, where I think before we speculated about it.
Right, I'm sure it was on one point. So either way, it looks like it's a shoe, which is great. I must have said on said episode that actually For Honor is a really, really good game. Very unique fighting style. The fact that you have to block and attack using like left, right, up, downs for your swipes rather than just hold one button to block. Very, very unique, and it keeps getting more content added, just like Rainbow Six Siege. New classes, new factions, and I look forward to jumping in and checking out. I'm sure we'll get a fantastic launch price on Stadia, as we usually do with most things, and fingers crossed it comes with crossplay as well, because we know how crossplay lands currently on the platform. A final one to kind of keep in line with these investor call ones is Roller Champions was also on the list, Richie. So Roller Champions is kind of the roller... what's it called in America? Why can't I think of the word?
Derby.
Roller derby, yeah. It's that kind of thing, yeah. But it's mixed a little bit in with Rocket League, where there's a giant ball in this one, and you're essentially competing to get the top score. That too has got an Amazon Luna and Google Stadia listing alongside the others, PlayStation and such. Do you think this is a cross-player thing? Let's have a look. Roller Champions cross-player. See if there's a Ubisoft article for that.
I mean, if it's any multiplayer games do massively benefit from crossplay.
You know what? This isn't even out yet.
Oh well, there you go.
So that might be why. So there's nothing to say specifically on crossplay, but if it's listed, we know what Ubisoft are like. No doubt they want it running across all of their Ubisoft Connect setups. This is probably one of those games that's not for me long term, but I'll probably have a great time on a stream, jumping in with the community and having a crack.
It's one of them. What you can guarantee, guys, is at some point Chris and I will get Ubisoft Plus back for a specific game for a stream, and then we'll do like a month's worth of live streams, all Ubisoft, and that will be one of them.
Oh yeah, we'll jump back into Riders Republic as well, and a bunch of other things. But good old Ubisoft looking after the Stadia people out there. No doubt we'll see more on Roller Champions upcoming as part of Summer Games Fest if Ubisoft finally do announce a Ubisoft Forward in line with it. Sticking with the Ubisoft block, Richie, Division 2 has finally got its long-awaited content. It's not seen anything in 2 years. We knew it was coming. It did get a delay last year, which pushed it into 2022, caused COVID, pandemic, blah, blah, blah. Let's be honest, it's been a pretty long wait. They finally announced that it's getting a brand new season. It
does. It is a bit of a long wait, but one thing you have to remember is this wasn't planned in advance.
Yeah.
This was in a response to previous DLCs doing better than expected in the game. Ubisoft probably expected the game to be dead by now. Yeah. So they basically had what, you want more? Okay, yeah, we'll commit to more. Then had to basically start from scratch to do this. And then it's had a delay. So it feels long because it wasn't planned. If it was planned, it would be out by now. But
yeah, most likely. Well, we say that about Skull and Bones. And that was planned. But we digress. The launch of Season 9, which is known as Hidden Alliance, will go live on the 12th of May, which is actually live now. If you're watching this, that'll be why they had the free weekend. That makes more sense now. Yes, they've just had a free weekend to
get
kind of
people
kickstart.
back in.
Yeah, get people back in, get new players back in. It's got a big new bad added to the game, Captain Lewis, as well as the hulking brutes. There will also be 4 new mini-bosses for players to square up against, known as the True Sons, which is kind of like mini class within it. The update also introduces a new 8-player co-op mode called Countdown. Might be worth us checking that out at some point, Richie, with the awesome community out there. As the name suggests, the players make up 2 teams. They will be given a 15-minute countdown to stabilize a power plant before it's locked down for good. The teams will start different locations on the map and work together to be victorious on their mission. So yes, you can imagine.
That sounds cool.
Fun and it does sound cool, it does. And of course, it's actually been on sale, I think, as well as having a free weekend. The Division 2 has been on sale many, many times on Stadia. But Ubisoft, of course, hoping to bring some people back in, build on the momentum that Division 2 had. And I think when we do hear about the inevitable Division 3, or whatever that looks like, because we do have Division Heartlands, which was rumoured for this summer as well. Yeah. I'm intrigued to see what the future of this franchise looks like, because of all the Tom Clancy things, this is actually the one I've probably been the most consistent with. I've got the Platinum in Division 1, played loads of Division 2, didn't go back for the Warlords of New York DLC, but that's just because I had so many other things to play. But it is the one out of the few. I enjoyed Wildlands for what we played. I enjoy Siege, but I'm just not that good at it.
Yeah.
Extraction, I enjoyed what I played of it, but it just didn't have any story to keep me going, whereas I do feel like the Division ticks all my boxes with story, third person, the mechanics of it all.
Yeah, it's one of them. It feels a nice balance between it being a single player story driven. So if you want to get invested in the story, you can play on your own, get full into the lore, and then occasionally jump in with other players as when you need to, rather than being my thing with multiplayer games sometimes is when this got all this lore and story, but you're too busy having a chat with your mate and having a laugh that you're not paying attention to what's going on. Yeah. And that's why they never really sink the teeth into me. Mm-hmm. Where Division is something I could easily just play on my own and go, if I was playing, go, pick you up, go, Chris, do you fancy going for this raid? And we jump in together.
It does have that nice balance. I think I played through a lot of the first game on my own, but like you said, there was the odd night when other people would be online and you say, oh, just drop in with it, because it doesn't really impact anything going on. You just kind of have this shared world. So good stuff. Can't wait. And again, very intrigued to see where Heartlands is at, because we must be due an update on that soon. Free-to-play version, spin-off.
I'd imagine the one to get this out, this new season out before they go hard on Heartlands.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because they don't want to be getting in the way of each other.
Yeah, you don't want to sabotage your own success. But speaking of success, we move on to our final Ubisoft story of the week, and that is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Richie, last year, after the year it launched, sold nearly double the DLC that Odyssey did.
I'm surprised. You know, it's one of them. We've covered Valhalla loads of times over the last 2 years, and so
we have.
Loads doing well, but it feels like a lot more quietly than Valhalla and Odyssey did. Odyssey was doing well in a very vocal,
a prominent way.
Yeah, it's Valhalla. It just seems to it almost feels like to came and gone, but under the surface, it's just doing numbers.
Yeah, it really has. So reading from Eurogamer, we already knew Assassin's Creed Valhalla was doing well, but it's still doing well 18 months later. New data released from Ubisoft as part of their annual financial results revealed that over the last 12 months, it had more unique players ending 31st of March 2022 than it did in the 4 months after it launched, which means it's more popular in the last 12 months than it was after launch, which is insane.
I really hope Ubisoft look at these numbers and go, you know what? Because we know Ubisoft are doing a bigger push for these persistent online, multiplayer experiences. I hope they look at the numbers for Valhalla and go, you know what? Single player, we can make a lot of money just making good single player games as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't a lot of money.
They don't try to force multiplayer and overly complex monetization and world tiers and season passes into games that they don't need it. Which is my worry about Assassin's Creed Infinity. Yeah,
lessons could be learned. Of course, Valhalla was the first Assassin's Creed game that Ubisoft announced grossed more than $1 billion in revenue. So it is the biggest, both financially and content-wise, that they've ever made. Which I don't know if it's just a case of bigger is better, or they've just built on Origins and Odyssey to a point where the fan base is back there. And I know they probably lost a few of the hardened fans of the older games. But if they just find this niche that they're filling a gap of The Witcher maybe left, these open world massive titles.
Well, I think with Odyssey, I think that's when, while Odyssey was incredibly praised because it was a really good game, it wasn't an Assassin's Creed game. It was just a Ubisoft style action adventure game. Valhalla took a step back. There was a bit more involvement actually from the Assassins, and the storyline felt more of an Assassin's Creed story. You got your hidden blade back, so I wonder if they've took that half step back. You've kept your new fans from Odyssey and Origin, but you've got the returning fans from the earlier games. I'm going, it might be the best of both worlds.
Both worlds being the Norse Svartalfheim.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it's Valhalla is probably not anyone's favourite Assassin's Creed game, but probably a lot of people's second favourite Assassin's Creed game.
It's an interesting one. It might just be the allure of Norse mythology. It's so shit hot at the moment, with Thor Ragnarok kicking stuff off and the Norsemen, the Vikings TV show.
I'd be interesting to see the sales figures. Do they get a spike every time Marvel do something with Thor?
Oh, I mean, let's face it. They've literally got Dawn of Ragnarok was the DLC that the big expansion dropped in March, which I've not yet to buy. I was tempted the other day, but it's at £32. So I feel like if I'm a bit patient, I'll pick that up on a Ubisoft sale at some point. Because I thoroughly loved Valhalla. So in this midst of I don't know what to play right now, jumping back into some crazy Ragnarok stuff is huge. And then in July, the next Thor movie comes out. So I'm very intrigued to see if there is if they're smart, they will tie in some seasonal DLC with Thor Love and Thunder coming out.
You could just pick up Ubisoft Plus for a month. That'll give you the DLC, all the DLC for Valhalla.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that is true.
It'd be cheaper than buying it, and then you get all the other goodies as well.
Could I play it in a month? That is a good shout.
The DLC, easy.
Yeah, that is a good point. I'll think of it when we get back from our holiday. But that's it for our Ubisoft block. Moving things back around to Stadia-specific news. In an odd move, I guess, this week, Google removed Stadia's dedicated gaming tab from the Google Store. We haven't actually mentioned it, but the Google I.O. event was this past week, and Stadia did not get a mention. I think there was like one or two passing things, but...
I mean... we're into a show and we're now just bringing up a big Google event. It just goes to show you how Google are looking at Stadia at the moment.
Yeah.
It's kind of disappointing. This, like, the I.O. should have been lead story.
Yeah, it's that weird thing where in between not having any Google Connects, apparently, and they had the piece at the Google for Games Developer Conference, like, fair enough. But that was for developers. That wasn't for the consumer. But the I.O. event is a huge consumer event where they showed off the new Pixel phone, they showed the Pixel Pro Buds, they showed the Pixel Watch. They went all out on hardware, and then nothing about their gaming division, which...
I know.
Again, the silence is deafening. It really, really is. Like, how... They couldn't dedicate 5 minutes to talk about how far it's came in the last 2.5 years. To maybe talk about their relationships have grown over the last few years. Like, at what point will they acknowledge that their own platform? Because they act as though it doesn't exist. And I've seen people on social media saying, "Oh, well, they've got other events for it and stuff." It's like they haven't had any other events for it. They haven't, yeah.
And the thing is, the Google I/O, you could do a Pixel event, you could do a wearables event, you can do all these events separately. But an I/O for me, a Google I/O, this is like, right, guys, this is what you should be excited by from Google as a whole in the next year.
Yeah.
That's what the I/O event is meant to be. So Stadia should be in there.
It should.
It
should. And my kind of big counterpoint, if anyone says they've got their other events, is...
No, they don't.
Why weren't they there?
Where are these other events? Because we've been covering Stadia for like 2 years and I haven't had a Stadia-focused event in a year and a half.
Yeah, I don't recall covering a Stadia Connect at any point.
Yeah.
Like, again, the dev stuff's cool.
There wasn't one in 2021.
Nope, not a thing. No more good
and
stuff
we're almost
events.
halfway through 2022.
No Hangouts. Nothing like that. But to bring it back to the story, the website, Richie, appears to have hidden the dedicated gaming tab. It now forms part of a different area. Why can't I remember what it was, though? Smart home.
It was a smart home, yeah.
Smart home. So,
which I don't really see Stadia as smart home tech. I know it technically is because it does have like Google Assistant integrated, sort of. I mean, you can ask your Google Assistant to launch Stadia, and that's about it.
It doesn't really make it smart tech, though, does it? Because it can do voice commands. I understand they might want to put their new tech, like the Pixel Buds and stuff, front and center for marketing preferences, because there's now like an earbuds category. If earbuds could get its own category, sorry, gaming should have its own. Gaming is far more industry-wide and known and bigger and more financially viable than earbuds. Like, everyone has a pair of earphones, yes, but guess what? You can pick them up for, what, 100 odd quid for a good, decent pair? I'm sure the Pro Buds are probably a little bit more. But the reality is, the gaming industry is worth so much more than that. It should have its dedicated tab. Sorry, if someone's looking for
I'm not against them going, okay, Pixel Buds, we're doing a new launch, a new Pixel Buds, we want to give this a really hard push. Let's get it on the web page. I give it its own tab so people can easily find it because they're selling well. But I don't see why gaming has to be removed. You could have that as well.
Yeah, there was a conversation that happened when they said we can just add it on at the end, earbuds, or maybe add it on a bit further up the list. Or could we remove something? What could be removed? There is no reason it had to be removed.
It's a concerted effort. Yeah. They've made a concerted effort and it's a decision to go, we're taking gaming off there. It's not a good look, guys. Like,
nope. Not more to say on that, really.
Yeah, no, it's just
because it would be very easy for us to just double down and say how embarrassing it is and everything else, but we won't go down.
We could spin entire SideQuest out, CloudQuest
out if we wanted to. We could. We might, depend on what our mood is.
I don't think we will, because it'd just be a half-hour rant about
it would.
One word being taken off a website.
That's true.
And Stadia is still there. It's just not as front and center
It's not
anymore.
as prominent, which is it as prominent across Google and their own mindshare?
Absolutely not. No.
Absolutely not. Let's pivot back to some quick game news to round out the show, Richie. Risk of Rain 2. Interesting enough, Survivors of the Void DLC was announced a little while back. It debuted on PC earlier this year, Risk of Rain, and it officially released its Survivors of the Void expansion on Google Stadia months ahead of consoles, actually. So it's a rare win for the platform. It does look like if you are a fan of Risk of Rain and you're keen to get your hands into the Survivors of the Void DLC, it's out now. Don't know where this came from. It's nice to see. Of course, Risk of Rain, pardon me, was one of the earlier well-received titles to drop. Was it a first on Stadia, if my memory serves me right?
I think Risk of Rain 2 might have been a first on Stadia.
So there's obviously some kind of... Either the development team are just really familiar with the tech and they can implement it quickly and fast off the PC build.
Risk of Rain 2 itself wasn't. One of the DLCs was a first on Stadia.
Was it the Garden one? Something.
I can't remember what it was called. Tom did a first look on it.
Yeah, Tom's the big Risk of Rain fan. But good to see if you're a fan of the game, as I said, months ahead of its console release. So if you are a fan of it, it's actually on sale right now. So if you've probably not already got it, pick it up on the store and check out that DLC before anybody on consoles. A rare win. Moving on, next one, Richie. Elemental Wars just dropped this week. Clockwork Origins' latest game came out, which of course is the Castle Defense title. And interestingly enough, any back and forward on Twitter, they've almost subtly confirmed that the game could in fact be coming to Pro eventually in the future. In a response to some questions, funnily enough, between Winemaking Simulator 100 Days developer and Stadia FR, they got onto the topic of Pro. And in their response, Clockwork Origins said, "We got offered to launch into Pro, but it was too late, in brackets, 2 weeks before release. We would have needed to shift our launch date to May the 1st, which wasn't possible due to some contracts with other platforms. It might enter Pro at a later date. We'll see."
I like the transparency there. It's like, yeah, we could have been Pro, but again, we'd have to change our release. It feels like Google could have just been a bit like... We've seen Pro titles launch later in the month. I feel like they could have adjusted to suit.
But again, goes back to, do we really know how much communication goes back and forth between these devs? We've reported the last couple of weeks, sometimes people reach out to Stadia team and they don't hear anything back. Sometimes stuff is left in certification for months and months on a time. So I'm not surprised that the quick back and forth for Elemental War was a question of, do you want to go Pro? Because we need some titles. And they've said, we've actually got contract commitments with other platforms. Yeah. And they've went, okay.
We can't change our release date because we're launching on other platforms and there's marketing beats that you're getting contracts with Microsoft, Sony, all sorts of stuff going on there. But like, when was the release date? Like the 10th or something? Like they could have easily just went, okay, we'll launch on the 10th on Pro.
Yeah, completely right.
That doesn't feel like... Basically what they're saying on Twitter is like, that seems to be the sticking point, the May the 1st release. But again, as I mentioned, we've had mid-month additions to Pro in the past.
We have indeed. And I mean, this was never a game I was really going to pick up. It didn't do that much for me. I used to play like tower defense games, but nothing that, like, this isn't anything that I'm going to be dropping any of that money on. And now it's coming to Pro. I'll probably pick it up on Pro and check it out. And that's the joys of Stadia Pro.
Yeah, if it does come to Pro, I'll probably check it out then.
It actually raises an interesting point, which I know we've covered a few times in the past on different episodes. The Pro library, the slowdown of the games we've gotten, is Pro slowly about to get worse over the months? Because the library, we know early doors, they had this problem where there wasn't enough games in the library to flesh out the Pro games.
Yeah, I don't know.
We know the cadence of releases so far this year has been a lot under par for what it has been in previous years. And it just makes me think, like, actually, like, if I was to, like, we're halfway through May at the moment, Richie. If I said to you, what do you think is going to come in June to Pro?
I don't know.
There's just nothing I can really think of.
This is kind of why we stopped kind of doing Pro predictions as part of the show, because, like, it's just impossible to kind of, because you don't know, if with basically no communication from Google, you never know what's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to speculate what might come and go pro. Like, I mean, we weren't expecting Outriders to go pro.
That's true.
So have all the Tomb Raiders been pro? I don't think
Rise
was Rise. So we could see Rise go pro.
Long time coming. But yeah, we'll speculate, of course, whatever goes pro. That kind of leads me into recapping and just retouching on one pro game that we were supposed to get about 45 days ago, Richie. No, sorry, not 45. Was it?
Yeah, it was April. It was meant to be
April. Oh, yeah, the
1st.
time's gone that fast. Yeah, so it's been 45 days since we were supposed to be getting Deliver Us the Moon as a pro title, and the more time that goes by, everyone knows, viewers and listeners, me and Richie are big fans of transparency, honesty, being upfront with us. Could you imagine PlayStation saying this is a PlayStation Plus game for April, and then silence until a month and a half? Well, actually, beyond a month and a half later.
Well, it was the night before it was meant to go live. They dropped the tweets. They dropped the tweet saying, "Oh, it needs more time," and then silence since.
Yeah, and since then they've done a lot of promotion over on their social channels about the next gen version of Deliver Us the Moon. I've seen loads of content for Deliver Us Mars. Obviously, the hype train is building up for that. And the next gen version has been confirmed to be landing on June 23rd. They've pushed it back a little bit to give their devs a little bit of additional time to lock in the definitive version of the game and give it some final polish. And then within the press release, there's a segment that does actually state Deliver Us the Moon will also be launching on Stadia and Stadia Pro, Google's cloud gaming platform, that lets you play games instantly on any screens that you already own in 2022. So it's good to know that it's still locked in for this year, I guess. But Richie, as a consumer, 45 days later, not a peep. I know Wired Productions have came out and said we'll give you an update when we have information, but is that enough clarity for a game we were expecting over a month and a half ago now?
Well, this feels like they're waiting for, like, you're saying we will get more clarity when we've got more information, but there's only two questions that need answering. One, well, the biggest one is probably which version we're getting. We're getting the old version or the polished up version, the definitive edition, or whatever they're calling us. Yeah, which one are we getting, and when? And if you don't have the when, at least turn around. You can tell us which version we're getting. You go, no, it's going to be the base version. At the moment, we're having issues. We think it's probably we're going to aim for June or July. We're not sure 100% when it'll come, but it's still coming. This is the version you're getting, and it will be pro when we get it done. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's like,
it's just very curious, isn't it? That it's just another one of those things that I don't think this would happen on any other platform. From both, I don't think if it was Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, whoever, Epic. I can't say anything for Amazon Luna because they're still in kind of a similar boat to Stadia. But for the rest of them, I don't think a publisher / developer would be able to get away with this kind of practice when there's active consumer. Like, if this was PlayStation, you're talking over 40 million PlayStation Plus subscribers would have missed out on an entire month of a game they were told, and the plug was pulled. I think just because it's Stadia and its player base and everything that surrounds it, they can just go, Like, is anyone at Google actually chasing them and saying, guys, we had a contract to get this out on the 1st of April?
If a game needs to be delayed, it needs to be delayed. Mm-hmm. But we're a month and a half after the delay, and we're still... This is literally an 11th-hour delay that was meant to be a small thing that needed resolving. It's been 6 weeks and basically no communication, and now they're pushing hard the next gen version for PlayStation and Microsoft. It's like, well, ignore. I'd be quite annoyed if I was Stadia. Like, they probably have. I'm assuming they've got really good reasons behind it, but like, again, this comes back to this is Stadia Pro is Stadia's product. Delivering the Moon is meant to be part of that, and it seems like it's getting ignored. If I was Google, I'd be annoyed. I'd be chasing them up, going, guys, what's going on? Our users are getting a bit antsy about this, asking us where it is, what's going. But you know what Stadia like? Sometimes they just go, you message something to Stadia and they'll go, oh, speak to the devs.
Yeah. No accountability on any fronts.
Yeah. Rather than going
at this moment.
Oh, I'll get in touch with contact there and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. Clarity, consumer friendly. But final story of the week, Richie. Let's wrap up with something nice and positive. Our good friends over at Outright Games, of course, loads of family-friendly games from Gigantosaurus to Ice Age to Paw Patrol to the upcoming DC adventure one with the
Rise of Shifter,
the Fast and the Furious one. Loads of games from Outright all over the platform. I think we joked at one point saying they might actually have more games than Ubisoft at one point. They must be on the cusp of that. They've tweeted out saying, save the date, be the first to know what's new at the Outright Games Unwrapped Digital Showcase, Richie. May 19th on their YouTube channel, 4 p.m. British Standard Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. Tune in to see what the future holds for Outright Games. Well, we know they've got a great deal with Stadia in terms of publishing, releasing. A lot of their titles have gone pro. Let's not forget that as well.
Yeah.
Again, another nice little showcase we've got in place for the summer as it kicks off. It's actually this week, I should say, the summer.
Yeah, it's Thursday.
It's this Thursday, yeah. So we'll probably have some kind of reactions to it on the channel. It probably won't be part of our live stream. I don't think we'll cover it as an event because it's not Stadia specific. But we might get some news for next week's show off the back of it. So,
and I'll to be fair, the games you're going to see from Outright Games are things that are going to be. I'm expecting things like Paw Patrol, Ben 10. Like they're not really our games, are they?
They're really not.
Yeah. So,
but they might be your games. But let us know in the comments below if you're looking forward to it, what predictions you've got for Outright Games. But Richie, that brings us to the end of episode 138 of your weekly Stadia show, where we round up all of the gaming and Stadia news for your listening and viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/HelixCloudGames. If you haven't done so already, do give the video a like, click that bell, and share it with your friends and fellow gamers out there so they are kept in the loop and kept up to date with all of our content. If you are like us and you want to talk about games throughout the course of the week with a bunch of like-minded people, the description and link for our Discord server is down below. There's many people in there talking back and forth about all things games. We'd encourage you to jump in and join us. There's a great group of people over there, always talking every single day. They're all awesome. And if you want to write into the show with any questions, you can do so in there. We have a dedicated channel for sending in your podcast questions. We sometimes pick out topics for CloudQuest in there as well, which of course is our rebrand show, Richie. And we're about to go away and record what a Stadia reboot could look like. Because if you can't tell from the way we talk on the show, something needs to change. I feel like the winds need to change direction or something in the next few months. I was going to say but then I don't want to put an ultimate. I'll save it for the show. The very first CloudQuest show. Thank you to everyone who's watched along, listened along this very week. You're all awesome. And remember, if you want to get CloudQuest up to 1 week early, you can join us, support us a little bit more by clicking join below on YouTube. Little as 99p, you get access to CloudQuest up to 6 whole days early. You don't have to wait for it to drop on free feeds. You also get stickers, badges next to your name, and Richie's undying love as well. Thank you for tuning in. My name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
And remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. We'll see you on the next one. Have a great week, gaming. Goodbye.
Bye.
Did you say pie?